I could have called Frank. I would have called Frank, but this other guy said he could do it. Now everyone's telling me, you should have called Frank.
When you have a remodeling, restoration, or any other construction project that needs doing, call Frank. Frank Chapman of Chapman Construction has the experience and skill to do the job right. And even though in the trade Frank is considered a craftsman, his rates are as reasonable as those other guys. Avoid the shoulda, woulda, coulda trap. Call Chapman Construction first for a free estimate. Chapman Construction, the right tools in the right hands.
Hi, my name's Bruce, and I do a morning show at Kicks 105, and today we're going to be cooking what we call Tampenade pork loin. I got the recipe from Steve Reichland's book, How to Grill, and I believe we'll be posting this right underneath the little video there on mysedalia.com as well. Start off with your basic pork roast. I went with a whole pork loin that we picked up, and what we're going to do is we're going to roll cut this out so that it flattens out completely. And you do that by starting off with the flat side, and I'm going to take a little of this fat off. There we go. You go with the flat side, go about a ½ inch or so up, and you're going to go even with the table into it. And I usually just go into about a ½ inch from the other side, and then you can open it up. And if you're lucky, it won't slide all over your work surface. And it'll just open straight up for you. And you should naturally be able to see a little bit of a lip right along here. So you're just going to follow that lip across. And that'll just flatten it all right out for you. There you go. And since we love working with raw pork, there's a lot of hand washing. Okay, now we're going to make the tampenade. Tampenade's basically, it's just a paste that's going to go inside. We're going to roll the roast back up and tie it together and put it, today we're going to put it out on the grill. So, very easily, it's 2 cans of olives, 2 cloves of garlic that's chopped. I went ahead and did that ahead of time because I figured nobody wants to watch me chop garlic. 2 tablespoons of capers, some Dijon style mustard, dried oregano, black pepper, and extra virgin olive oil. Very simple, not a lot goes into this. Look at that, you like that? Bush has sent me that. Like that? My wife really likes it when I bring home Bush's beans too. I think they owe me for product placement now. Yeah. You alright, Jeff? You're gonna start shaking the camera, aren't you? Drain the olives off. Since these are going in the blender anyway, I just buy the broken ones. It's way easier. This one's a real easy recipe to make, and it's a crowd pleaser every time. Okay, so 2 cans of olives. I always like to leave things where they're least convenient so I can come back and refer to them. The 2 cloves of garlic and 2 tablespoons of the capers. I said I like to use fresh garlic. Just break a couple of cloves off a head and throw it in a chopper, or use your favorite knife to not chop your finger off. If you're lucky enough to have a food processor, I highly recommend it. If you're like me, you're going to have to beat the snot out of the blender like I'm going to do here on camera here in a little while. People will call the blender police on me. Okay, 1 tablespoon of mustard and a teaspoon of oregano. This stuff is easily not the most appetizing thing and looking thing in the world. Matter of fact, when the first time I made it, the kids all looked at it and said, "Dad, what are you doing?" Now, though, they all come home for dinner when I make it, so teaspoon of the oregano. And if you go with a little extra oregano, you can't have too much oregano. That's a rule. You can never have too much garlic or too much oregano. Okay, and then 1 tablespoon of the extra virgin olive oil. Then for the fun part, mix this stuff up. Hi, I'm blending. And it's not even a margarita. See, eventually it always gets stuck. It's a little trick with blenders. They love that. It's just like anything else. If it starts messing up on you, beat the snot out of it. Remember the TVs in the 70s? It worked every time for the vertical hold. Anyway, just so you can get it all mixed up. If your blender is better than mine, which I have absolutely no doubt it would be. It's a nice looking olive drab, isn't it? Yeah, that's actually pretty smooth already. Yummy. Okay. Now for the fun part. You take your freshly mixed tampenade and you spread it all over the top of your meat. And again, the first time you make this, you might not want to let the kids see you do it. Ew! Believe it or not, I haven't tried it yet. I've done this recipe several times with the pork loin, but I haven't tried it yet. They say that this works out really well if you do it with a boneless leg of lamb too. Just roll it out like that and use this. It's a real Mediterranean taste. Which means if you have any Greek friends coming over, you can try that with them. I think there's, what, 3 in town? All right. You can, if you have leftover, that's fine. Just set it off to the side for serving if somebody wants a little extra. But what you wind up with is well, we'll show you in a few minutes, but what you wind up with is a real nice looking, kind of a festive look with the white meat, and it'll be the darker stuffing inside. Then, before we go to that, the bacon. Throw some bacon across your strings. Put 3 across here. Because there's not quite enough pork in this recipe, you got to throw a little extra bacon on it. Pork producers, I think, owe me some stuff now too, don't they? Yep. Then you just roll this up, and it should roll up pretty close to in line with where you had it. Some of that'll ooze out, and that's okay. Set it right down on top of the middle slab of bacon. Set another piece of bacon across the top, and you start tying from the outside in. That way you keep the stuffing from oozing out on you all over the place as you tie. You know, I've always burnt meat. That's what we used to call it when I was in my 20s in the service, and the guys would get together. We'd go, hey, let's get together and burn some meat on the grill. So we've just always been grilling. I came across this book, and I went from a guy that just burnt meat on the grill to a guy that can actually make stuff with flavor and things, more than just salt and pepper. So after a while, people start coming over to your house, and then they start wanting stuff that tastes good. So then you have to start actually producing this all the time. And there you have it. It's ready to go on the grill. We'll be grilling this. We'll be grilling it at a medium heat. So I use charcoal, but if you're a gas griller, you just set the two outside burners to medium. Set this in between them, and just and close the lid. If you're a charcoal griller, 20 to 25 coals on either side, and then set this in between. So you just make 2 piles of coals. You should be all set.
And how long does this cook?
They say it takes about an hour. I usually wind up going about an hour and a half or so, to about 160 internal temperature, which is why I walk around with a meat thermometer in my pocket when I'm grilling, because it looks way more manly than an apron. So this is Steve Reichland's How to Grill. The guy's an absolute master at the barbecue pit, and every recipe we've tried out of here has turned out. And as you can tell, it's pretty well used. Matter of fact, Steve, need a replacement copy. All right, here we are. As you can see down here, we put a small fire on either side, about 25 coals per side. Something this big, I go a little bit more. Smaller grills, you go a little bit less, but you want to get about a medium heat. And then the beauty of having these little tails on, so you just pick it up, set it right in the middle, close it down, and there you have it. It's a piece of cake. In about an hour, I'll put some more coals on there to make sure that the fire stays up and it gets done. Test it with the meat thermometer in about an hour, and then it should be up to about 160 before you pull it off. Take about an hour 15, maybe an hour and a half. There, you see, you wind up with a nice hue with that, and then the stuffing. We'll serve this with some rice pilaf tonight. I think somebody else is bringing over some mashed potato, or no, some corn, and some pie, and you're all set. You've got a whole guest's worth of barbecue ready to go. And they think you slaved all day, and it took you 25 minutes to prepare it, maybe. And then you sat back and you watched the grill for a while. There you are. Done deal. So it's Tampenade pork roast. It's a crowd pleaser every time. Super easy to do. Not a lot that goes into it. And everybody loves it. And they think, ooh, you're great.